Well, before starting with the chapter, a few quick clarifications, or rather, answering a couple of questions I was asked in the comments and an apology for something my translator got wrong. It was the laws of Asgard, not Sardia. Sardia is something else I invented for another very different project that has nothing to do with fanfiction, but with a book I'm writing, but it's not something that will come out in the short term. Now, the comments guessed, yes, it's an exclusively female nobility. I explained it in the original story that is also of my authorship. Naruto really doesn't want to have to deal with men in his nobility since that would lead to power games and tensions due to hormones. Having said that, now let's go with Chapter 1. And curse me for having written such long chapters. Chapter 1, First Reading. So, summarizing things, you want us to read the story of the galaxy-exploding sociopath? Asked a completely incredulous Azazel. After all, when he was kidnapped by a strange being, he didn't expect that after a series of screams and blames from everyone, mainly directed at Certs for no particular reason beyond, we all collectively decided that we will blame you for all our misfortunes. They would tell him shortly after that they had been summoned by an author solely to read a book about the life of one of the most damn dangerous people in history and the present. That is, they were going to read the story of Naruto Gremory, the damn sociopath who somehow had obtained the power to create a galaxy and blow it up with millimeter precision. Yep. I said with a vibrant smile. After all, this was something like a return to my origins as an author. In reality it was precisely that, but my unwilling guests didn't need to know. Who wants to see the story of that monster? Rias blurted out, earning death stares from basically everyone present. Okay, Naruto was a criminal in half of the factions, the Greeks in particular had a special hatred for him, but for the other half, the truth is that they liked him quite a bit, especially Odin. After all, that guy got rid of the damn wolf. Sure, he turned it into armor for his tower, but hey, he killed the wolf that was destined to kill him, so for him it was a good thing. First of all, why do you call him a monster? He never really did anything to you except reincarnate two pieces that gave yours a beating in their time. I commented distractedly. The truth is that I never did anything bad to Rias, at least not during the first chapters, the ones that weren't published yet. Gods, if Naruto hadn't made her suffer there. Rias tried to reply to that, saying why her brother was without a doubt the worst of all the monsters that had ever emerged. However, the truth is that she had no reason, at least not ones that wouldn't make her look like a spoiled bitch, and she already had enough problems to deal with right now. After all, she had to find a way to circumvent the ban on reincarnating someone in Shinto territory without having to report that she wanted to do it. After all, Issei was destined to be her trump card against her brother and Reiser when the former's 3-year exile ended, and by the time the former arrived to fulfill the engagement agreement. Finally, after an uncomfortable silence from Rias, Milikas raised his hand to get my attention. Not that he had to, but hey, at least the boy was polite. We're going to read about my uncle, right? He asked nervously, really wanting to know what had led his socially awkward and genuinely nice and witty uncle to become one of the most wanted criminals by half of the factions, and above all to know what the hell he did to the Greeks to make them hate him so much. Actually, we'll use that screen over there to see what's going on, but med details. I replied simply, at the end of the day that's what we were going to use. Alright, if no one else is against it. I said just to completely ignore Rias and a couple of others who were totally against starting the viewing in turn on the screen. Chapter 1, a sepulchral silence, dense as midnight fog, enveloped the Gremory mansion. Only the crystalline clinking of silver tableware, a ghostly echo in the distance, and the silky whisper of velvet curtains, dancing to the rhythm of a breeze laden with secrets, dared to disturb the stillness. Enormous stained glass windows, cobwebs of faint light, cast elongated shadows over the intricate tapestries that adorned the walls, narrating with threads of gold and crimson glorious battles and ancestral pacts, stories woven into the very soul of the mansion. However, behind the majesty of the tapestries, a secret throbbed hidden in plain sight, a mystery that took refuge in the penetrating gaze of a child. Naruto's Sirius Gremory, the third son of the clan, an enigma that no one dared to decipher. If anyone dared to ask about him, the answers vanished like breath in the cold air, frigid and evasive as the wind that seeped through the cracks in the walls. Just another Gremory, some said, with disdain disguised as indifference. A lucky bastard, others murmured, with bitter envy in their voices. But no one, not even the oldest servants, dared to unravel the true nature of that boy with emerald eyes that pierced the darkness and a restlessly inquisitive mind. Man, and they wonder why he's literally said he wants to give them a galactic explosion in the face. Azazel commented, completely surprised. Damn, if the Gremory clan's own servants called you a lucky bastard, he would have grown resentful too. Believe it or not, he was relatively happy before the exile. Ajuka commented with a scathing look directed at who was once his best friend. He certainly didn't know that the servants of the Gremory house had treated his beloved student that way. If he had known, the consequences would have been dire. He would have taken him to the Astaroth clan. It was easy to make him happy. Ravel nodded. Naruto used to be happy with little things, a good research, an intellectually challenging conversation, hell, even an imaginary tea party used to make him happy. While this was happening in all the other clans and factions, the Gremoris, especially Certsks and Zidicus, were completely incredulous. They certainly didn't expect their servants, those who had been given freedom and permission to have a certain level of liberty, to have such horrible opinion about their youngest son/brother. Just because you can destroy things doesn't mean you know how you want to destroy them. The phrase, spoken by Naruto long ago, still echoed in the halls of the Gremory mansion, a ghostly echo that filtered through the sugary compliments and praises directed at his sister Rias. The rest of the family, and even the servants, went out of their way to flatter her, blind to the arrogance that grew within her with each hollow word. He doesn't learn control, he doesn't learn humility, Naruto thought, flipping through the pages of an ancient grimoire with restless fingers. She has only learned that the world will kneel before her for being special. Ha, naive, the world kneels before no one. That teaching is utterly stupid. His eyes, usually hidden behind thick sunglasses, gleamed with an intense light, two emeralds ignited in the dimness. My beliefs aren't stupid, Oniai-sama told me so. Rias shrieked, completely indignant and incredulous that her younger brother called her an idiot incapable of controlling her power of destruction. Of course, at his daughter's frankly embarrassing outburst, Zyticus could only cover his face with his palms. What had he done in life to make the only rational and level-headed one of his 3 children end up becoming a criminal? Remind me why I accepted her into my lands? Amaterasu asked Tsukuyomi. Honestly, she was sure there was a reason why she let such an incredibly stupid and conceited girl set foot on her lands. You wanted to have the jerk by the balls and tell him, whenever I want, your precious little sister dies, her younger sister reminded her, making Amaterasu hum about that for a couple of seconds before speaking again. Oh yeah, it's too late to regret that now, she said, now regretting accepting the deal. I mean, what good was having the jerk sister in her hands if she was this annoying? But leaving those bitter thoughts aside, right now Naruto, barely 10 years old, stood before his older brother, Surt's Lucifer. The air around them vibrated with palpable tension, a silent clash between 2 brilliant minds and 2 opposing wills. Naruto, with his 4'7" stature, his blood-red hair with 2 white streaks framing his face like moon brushstrokes, observed Surt's with a mixture of icy curiosity and indifference. Surt's, for his part, struggled to maintain his composure, but his hands trembled slightly and a drop of cold sweat trickled down his temple, betraying his nervousness. He had made a mistake, an unforgivable oversight, and now he had to face the consequences. Since when does Surt's have a brilliant mind? Raval commented dryly. Surt's had never been the brightest of the bright types, in fact, he was on the opposite spectrum, he was one of the stupidest guys in the underworld. Hey! Shouted a completely indignant Surt's. What is this? Naruto asked, with a tone that Surt's had learned to interpret as the expression of his natural interest, rather than a bit of indifference towards his family. His voice, though still childish, resonated with an unusual serenity for a boy his age, as if the secrets of the universe had already unfolded before his eyes. The person who piqued his curiosity was a young girl with hair as golden as freshly forged gold, hiding shyly behind Surt's imposing figure. Her eyes, the color of honey in the sunlight, were fixed on the floor, avoiding Naruto's penetrating gaze. A worn and stained kimono covered her slender body, and 4 snow-white tails peeked out from underneath, moving nervously. 2 purple marks, similar to wolf fangs, adorned her cheeks, an unsettling contrast to the sweetness of her features, further arousing the young Gremory's interest. Wow, Natsumi-chan was like that when she was a child? The boy certainly worked miracles with her. Odin commented with a genuinely amused smile, after all, imagining the one who today is known as the Witch of Fire and Ice as a poor, thin beggar. Humph, how come the queen of my favorite mercenary is with you? Amaterasu asked, choosing not to use the affectionate nickname she had for Naruto. After all, she didn't want the red-headed idiots to think they had a chance of her forgiving them for what they had done to him. I bought her. Surt's tried, after all, that's what had happened, he never set foot on Shinto territory, however his words only made Amaterasu give him a squinting look. Azazel got her for me, he finally admitted. Partially true. Azazel commented dryly, he had gotten her in exchange for letting his little brother take one of his many daughters as a lover. What? Even he wished to have the mythical 6 eyes in his lineage. I got her to be the first member of your peerage, Surt's said with forced cheerfulness that failed to deceive Naruto. His voice, usually calm and confident, trembled slightly, and his hands, normally still, twisted with unease. An idiot, Naruto thought, with a mixture of icy pity and impenetrable indifference. There's no way he believes this farce. Suddenly, fragmented memories burst into his mind, like gusts of freezing wind. The sun goddess, Amaterasu, her searing flames licking the air, her volcanic temper trembling on the verge of eruption, threatening destruction to anyone who dared to touch her cute kitty. Surt's, pale as a ghost and with cold sweat purling his forehead, trying to appease her fury. So he remembered me after all, Naruto murmured to himself, with an ironic smile that didn't reach his emerald eyes. And this kitsune is the price of his negligence. More than the price of his negligence, it's proof that he's a complete imbecile. Amaterasu commented dryly, now remembering that conversation. She really couldn't believe that the idiot tomato had misunderstood the meaning of her words. She told him that he wasn't even man enough to take 2 Nico Shao, one for his sister and one for his brother. She never told him to give another yokai to his brother. How he understood that from her words would now be a doubt that would deprive her of sleep for a few days. And now what did I do to be called an idiot? Surtsk complained. Really, why did everyone insist on calling him an idiot? Okay, he made mistakes and he knew it, but he was trying. Do you want the full list or should I give you the summarized version? Ajuka commented dryly. The list was surprisingly long, so long that it was actually damn long, so much so that the simple summary was contained in an entire warehouse. Not that he cared. He had better things to do than worry about trifles. Still, he supposed his brother and his guilt complex made him feel terribly bad about it, and he chose to give him the first thing he found, which happened to be a 4-tailed kitsune in deplorable condition, probably rescued at the last minute. You need a bath and clean clothes, Naruto commented dryly, fixing his hawk-like gaze on the young kitsune. His gaze, sharp as the edge of a sword, focused on the smallest details, the dirt stains on her worn kimono, her tangled and dull hair, the 4 tails that waved nervously, trying to blend into the shadows. Hello. The girl coughed into her hand, trying to hide a blush of shame that burned her cheeks. Her hazel eyes, normally bright and full of life, clouded over with the mist of insecurity. I'm Natsumi, it's a pleasure to meet you. I hope to be a good member of your peerage, she said in a trembling voice, bowing her head in respect. Naruto observed the girl and her disheveled appearance for a few moments, drawing a straight line with his lips, a gesture that denoted his deep analysis. Why is he thinking about it so much? She's a kitsune. Rias growled, not exactly happy with the whole damn thing. If the damn cat lady hadn't bothered her brother, then her brother probably wouldn't have that other monster as his queen. Unlike other people whose name I choose not to say for fear of losing brain cells, he does analyze every potential member of his peerage. Ajuka commented dryly. After all, Naruto observed every last detail of Natsumi before choosing which piece to give her to reincarnate her as his queen. For tales at 10 years old, incredible potential, he thought, feeling a spark of interest ignite within him. And those marks on her face, what do they mean? His fingers, long and slender, moved restlessly over the cover of the book he was holding, a treatise on Egyptian mythology with pages worn by time, silent witnesses of countless readings. It doesn't make sense that the kitsune abandoned her, unless... An idea began to take shape in his mind, a possibility that intrigued and excited him at the same to follow his instinct. Naruto rummaged in his pocket and pulled out a small chess piece, carved from ebony and ivory. A queen. Surtsk, who was watching the scene attentively, opened his eyes in surprise, disbelief reflected in his gaze. He didn't understand why his brother had chosen such an important piece for an unknown kitsune, but Naruto paid him no attention. His eyes were fixed on Natsumi, analyzing every detail of her expression, every movement of her tails, every beat of her heart. Upon the mention of Surtsk's reaction, everyone gave a collective facepalm. They really couldn't believe that he didn't know about the growth potential of kitsune, and how they become more powerful the more tails they have. Natsumi currently had 8 damn tails, and she was already infinitely more powerful than Yasaka, and close to Tamamonome's level. I still don't understand why he used his queen piece on her. The Crimson Satan commented, earning another collective facepalm. Are you sure he's my dad? Milikas asked his mother, who could only sigh and nod. Unfortunately, Surtsk was his son's father. He was just lucky enough to inherit the lascivious intelligence. Then, with a soft tone that contrasted with his usual coldness, he instructed Natsumi on what to do. His words, precise and concise, guided the young kitsune through the reincarnation ritual, a process she followed with a mixture of fear and fascination, like a moth drawn to a flame. In a short time, the queen piece was absorbed by her body, merging with her being, and a wave of energy ran through her veins like a river of fire, awakening a dormant power within her. She gasped, feeling an intense heat and a sense of expansion, as if something inside her were growing and changing, breaking the chains of her limitation. Naruto, with a subtle gesture, helped her to her feet, and with a brief nod to his brother, led her to one of his favorite places in the mansion, his second room, or as Rias called it, his mad scientist's cave, which was located on the second floor, away from the bustle and frivolity of the rest of the mansion. Upon crossing the threshold, Natsumi felt transported to another world. The smell of dust and old paper mixed with the acrid aroma of unknown chemicals, an olfactory symphony that made her wrinkle her nose. The room was an organized chaos, shelves filled with ancient books, whose worn covers whispered forgotten secrets, tables covered with parchments and diagrams, and dark corners where strange devices and scientific instruments piled up, relics of arcane experiments. In the background, a massive wooden desk stood imposing, covered with scribbled papers, complex diagrams, and small trinkets that seemed to have been collected at random, stones carved with unknown symbols, ancient coins with faces worn by time, and a small silver medallion that shone with a faint light, like a watchful eye in the darkness. Curious, Natsumi approached the desk and examined the objects closely. Naruto's handwriting, which covered the pages of notebooks and parchments, was a reflection of his mind, a labyrinth of apparently chaotic strokes, but with an internal logic that only he could decipher. A small photograph, placed in a worn silver frame, caught her attention. In it, a younger Naruto smiled mischievously, his eyes sparkling with a mischievous glint, while sharing a cup of tea with a girl with blonde hair and bright blue eyes like newly polished sapphires. Natsumi felt a pang of curiosity, a silent question throbbing in her chest, but before she could formulate it, Naruto's voice startled her. "Oh come on, if Naruto and Ravel got along so well, why did they have to give me to the damn pig idiot?" Rias complained, seeing how happily Naruto and Ravel smiled in the photograph. Maybe if the engagement had been between them, her little brother wouldn't have become the monster he ended up being. "Because your mother refused to let her half-blood stepson marry into a clan as prestigious and proud as ours." Her exact words were, "My daughter deserves more from her lineage than Zedekis's damn spawn," Lord Phoenix commented. He and his wife wanted the six-eyed user, but it didn't have to be their pure-blooded daughter. Damn it, pure blood was overrated in his opinion, not to mention the inbreeding. There weren't enough demons to avoid it. "Thank you very much, by the way, they made me have to compete for his affection with many other girls. Do you have any idea how difficult it is to compete with his damn bishop when I can only see him once a month?" Ravel complained, not realizing, at least not immediately, that she had revealed that she actually had a relationship and occasional encounters with Naruto, and to her slight misfortune, she had to compete against Zekram Bale's damn granddaughter, who, being his bishop, had free rein to seduce him every day. "I spoke out loud, didn't I?" she asked without even seeming embarrassed. Having contact with an exile was not a crime, just frowned upon, but since said exile was the most coveted demon in the underworld, people wouldn't see her badly. "Yes, you did." Odin laughed. To tell the truth, it was surprisingly funny how much one boy could influence world events. On the other hand, said boy was the subject who literally had the most coveted eyes in the world, so he supposed it made a little sense. "I'm a person interested in many things," he said, in a tone that mixed indifference with a slight echo of contained enthusiasm. "These are my notes on a topic I found interesting. It turns out that human iron and underworld iron are very different, and I'm interested in knowing what's really there to make them so different." Why would that interest him? Azazel asked. It wasn't the type of topic one would expect to interest someone like Naruto, who was more interested in unraveling the great secrets of the cosmos than something so mundane. He was never able to accept that he translated wrong. Ajuka said with a small smile, his stubbornness really was one of the things he cherished most. What did he translate wrong? The fallen angel asked with genuine interest. After all, if he was investigating metals because of a translation error, then it definitely must have been something truly important. He confused gammonium with gallium. Seraphal sang cheerfully, although now that she thought about it, given his exile, they were never able to collect on the bet since they didn't know if he finally accepted that he had screwed up, or if he created his own metal with unique properties similar to gammonium. "Really? Oh god, that's so funny," Azazel said with a smile, unable to imagine how Naruto of all people had made a mistake like that. Natsumi flinched at the sound of his voice, a stifled cry escaping her lips like a frightened whisper. She turned quickly, her heart pounding in her chest like a frantic drum. Naruto watched her with an analytical gaze, the shadow of an amused smile curving his lips. "Do you want to help me?" he asked, offering her a pair of safety goggles. Natsumi, still with the blush of embarrassment coloring her cheeks, nodded in silence and took the goggles, feeling the brief brush of their fingers together, a fleeting contact that left a spark of electricity on her skin. Graphia Lasifuge, with her silver hair like a lunar waterfall that defied gravity, was the very image of elegance and power. Her amethyst eyes gleamed with a sharp intelligence, capable of cutting through the air, and an unwavering loyalty to her king and husband, Surt's Lucifer. The maid outfit she wore, immaculately white with black details that highlighted her slender figure like a brushstroke of ink on canvas, fit her lithe form like a second skin, accentuating her delicate curves and haughty bearing. With a fluid motion, she arched a perfectly groomed eyebrow as Surt's materialized in her office with a slight burst of magical energy, the air crackling with his presence. "How did he react to your gift?" she asked in a respectful tone that did not hide her curiosity, her words falling with the precision of blades. Surtsk, frowning and staring into space, as if trying to decipher an invisible enigma, seemed not to have heard her. "Is everything all right, Surtsk-sama?" Graphia insisted, with a slight touch of concern that softened the coldness of her voice. "Why would he use a queen piece on a four-tailed kitsune?" Surtsk murmured to himself, oblivious to Graphia's presence, his voice a whisper laden with confusion. "Exactly, why?" Surtsk shouted, earning yet another collective facepalm. Really, why didn't he understand that it was the best piece for a kitsune? "Seriously, is he my dad?" Milikas asked again. "Unless your uncle has discovered how to time travel and take your father's appearance, just to get revenge on him by making him a cuckold." "Yes, he is," Graphia said before pausing. Knowing Naruto and how petty and vengeful he was, the outlandish situation she had posed was actually a possibility. After all, if he developed an instant travel method, if he was able to recreate the explosion of a galaxy and even master Absolute Zero, then certainly time travel wouldn't be a big deal. "Do you think he could?" "With your uncle, and his pettiness, I think it's possible." Graphia admitted, however, until she was 100% sure, she wouldn't say it as a certainty. After all, even Naruto wasn't that petty, besides Milika's inherited the power of destruction, and Naruto didn't even have that ability. A slight shadow of confusion crossed Graphia's face, but she quickly hid it with her usual composure. She placed the teacup in front of Surtz with a smooth and precise gesture, a movement that denoted grace and efficiency, and with a slight nod, she excused herself. "With your permission, Surtz-sama." With quick and silent steps, like a shadow gliding through the corridors, she headed towards Naruto's room. Questions crowded her mind, a whirlwind of uncertainty that threatened to break her facade of serenity, but she kept her expression impassive, like a mask of serenity that hid the storm of thoughts churning inside her. Had Surtz really forgotten that kitsune grow exponentially as they gain tails? What plans did Naruto have for her? And how would this affect the balance of the peerage and the future of the Gremory clan? He completely screwed it up. Seraphal said, honestly she never expected to see that a simple action would cause so many waves as the simple fact of having given a four-tailed kitsune to someone like Naruto had resulted. To be fair, Surtz helped with that. Ajuka commented, the balance of the Gremory clan would have gotten out of control eventually anyway, but it was Surtz who sent everything to hell with his actions. How did I help screw up the power balance of my own clan? Surtz asked. Apparently even after more or less 3 whole years he still wasn't able to see that his actions caused the whole damn situation with Naruto, which was as sad as it was funny. 3 reasons. 1. You gave him what is undoubtedly the most powerful queen of the present day. Hell, he invented a damn magic element. Number 2. You ignored your brother so much that you literally gave Graphia free rein to train the girl. Seraphal began, listing the first 2 points that allowed the Gremory clan's power balance to go to hell. You trained her? Surtz asked his wife, who simply nodded. Why? He asked, genuinely confused. My book version will explain, was Graphia's simple response, needing to say nothing more to explain, as her book version would answer for her. What's the 3rd reason? Surtz asked, wanting to know what the 3rd reason was that, according to his friends, caused him to destroy the power balance within his clan. You exiled him and well, you know how that turned out. Ajuka commented with a mean smile, nothing like reminding his former best friend that it was his actions that were slowly taking the Gremory clan to the gutter. Surtz-sama may have prevented me from training Rias as queen, but nothing was said about Naruto-sama's. I will make sure Natsume is a queen worthy of a Satan's brother, Graphia thought, with unwavering determination in her gaze, her amethyst eyes shining with fierce intensity. Finally, Graphia reached the younger Gremory's room. Carefully, she raised her hand and knocked gently on the door, the sound of her knuckles against the carved wood echoing in the silence of the hallway, like a dry and precise knock. From inside, a female voice murmured something akin to "I'll open it, sir," and a moment later, the door opened with a prolonged creak, a silent lament that broke the stillness. In the frame, the little kitsune watched her shyly, her hazel eyes wide open and her 4 tails moving nervously, as if trying to trace invisible figures in the air. The outfit she now wore, a simple white robe provided by the servants, seemed to swallow her small figure, and her hands, small and delicate, twisted with insecurity, like 2 little birds caught in an invisible net. "See, can I help you?" Natsume asked in a trembling voice, her fox ears twitching slightly, betraying her nervousness. That's good, a solid foundation to work with, Graphia thought with satisfaction, her amethyst eyes assessing the young kitsune with an analytical gaze that stripped bare every detail. Greetings. I am the queen of Naruto-sama's older brother. Do you know that Naruto-sama's brother is a very important figure in the underworld? It was. Raval commented with a smile, he loved this story. Okay, his future brother-in-law didn't have a good childhood, but it was giving him many opportunities to make fun of the fallen demon king. Screw you guys. Surtz shouted. We prefer to keep screwing with you. Ajuka mocked, now that they had the opportunity to actively bother him, he would definitely take advantage of it. Then, why did you reject my invitation to the club dedicated to hating him? Amaterasu asked, she had really felt offended when her invitations were rejected without being opened. Wait, that was real? I thought it was Naruto being petty. Ravel asked, genuinely surprised. Well, he gave me the idea to start the club. Amaterasu admitted, to tell the truth, it was one of the best ideas her cute bright-eyed tomato had given her. Natsume nodded docilely, her fox ears trembling with each movement of her head, like leaves stirred by a gentle breeze. And that Naruto-sama himself belongs to a very influential family? He used to. Ria said with a mocking smile, her brother had long since ceased to belong to the Gremory clan. He still does, the senile old man adopted him. Azazel said as he pointed at Odin, who adopted Naruto as one of his many, really many, children after the little bastard killed Fenrir. He killed the wolf that was going to kill me, it was the least I could do for a poor orphan boy. Odin said with a smile. I'm not dead, you know. Zidika said, okay, Naruto's mother was dead as far as he knew, but he was still alive and still his father. As if you were. Ajuka replied dryly, after all, Zidikus was never a father to either Naruto or Rias, although the latter didn't particularly care to the green-haired demon. Natsume nodded again, but this time with less confidence. Her eyes darted to the side, seeking refuge in the shadows of the walls, as if hoping to find answers among the murmurs of the old wood. Due to these factors, I would like to teach you how to be a suitable queen for Naruto-sama. I will also train you to become stronger physically, mentally, and magically, so that you can become the best you can be, Grafia said, in a firm and authoritative tone that resonated with the experience accumulated through countless battles and challenges. And then a crazy, deranged geek with nerdy tendencies will teach you something that will turn you into a terrifyingly adorable monster. Sirafal commented, because well, that's what had happened. Grafia gave her the basics of training and then Naruto came and turned Natsumi into one of the most powerful beings of the present day. Was it necessary to say that? Sana asked. After all, she felt it was a bit unnecessary. After all, everyone knew that was what had happened right now. For me it was, I mean, that's what happened, right? Sirafal asked with a smile, nothing like throwing each and every one of Surtsk's mistakes in his face to keep the atmosphere as it should be, that is, completely hostile towards the red-haired idiot. As Natsumi opened her mouth to reply, Grafia raised a hand to signal her to wait, a gesture that cut through the air with the precision of a sword. Discuss the offer with your king first. That is my first lesson, Grafia instructed, with a smile that did not reach her eyes, an expression that hid the steely determination that throbbed within her. Nodding in confirmation, the Kitsune girl closed the door. After a minute or two of murmured words that Grafia could not understand, a murmur of high-pitched and curious voices that seemed to dance in the air like autumn leaves, indecipherable whispers that filled the space with palpable tension, the door opened again. In the threshold, not only Natsumi appeared, but also Naruto, with his piercing blue eyes fixed on Grafia, like two lasers analyzing every movement. The young Kitsune, with her four tails moving nervously, hid slightly behind her king, seeking protection in his shadow, like a fawn before the presence of a wolf. Naruto-sama, I believe you have heard about the offer I made to your queen, Grafia said in a formal tone, but with a slight glint of curiosity that sparkled in her amethyst eyes like shooting stars. She watched attentively the restless movement of Natsumi, who seemed trapped in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions, between the indifference of her king and the authority of the experienced queen. I have, Naruto replied with his usual calm, his eyes fixed on Grafia without revealing any emotion, like a frozen lake that keeps its secrets in the depths. I certainly didn't expect the proposal, but I have no problem with you taking care of Natsumi from time to time. How often do you think you can train Natsumi? Once every 2 to 4 weeks for a maximum of 24 hours, Grafia replied, in a professional tone that resonated with the firmness of an unbreakable pact. Although I am pleasantly surprised that you have agreed so easily, Naruto-sama. Yes, well, I've seen how a queen can act when given complete freedom and absolutely no discipline, Naruto said, with a slight touch of sarcasm that curved his lips into an ironic smile, as his mind conjured the image of Akeno, his sister's queen, with her childish attitude and senseless whims. Akeno is 1,000 times better queen than that monster. Ria spat out. In her eyes, she had the best of all queens. No matter what her younger brother said, no one was or would be better than Akeno. Is she? Really? Ravel asked, genuinely surprised that Rias thought that. Of course, Rias affirmed, leaving no room for discussion. Really, tell me, how many S-rank monsters has she killed alongside you? Ravel asked. Natsumi had been with Naruto in each and every one of his hunts since they killed Fenrir. Delta 2, but the Therianthrope wasn't relevant to the point she was trying to make. Rias didn't really understand the question Ravel asked her. However, that didn't matter, because before she could formulate an answer, Ravel continued with a series of questions. How many new abilities has she created with your teachings? No, that's too much. How many abilities has she mastered? Hell, has she even overcome her problems? Well, no, but she's my best friend. Ria said, that alone made Akeno 1,000 times better than Natsumi. She wasn't her brother's best friend. N/A, who's going to tell her that a lover logically surpasses a best friend? Being your best friend doesn't make her the best queen. Power, skill, and loyalty do, and of those, frankly, I doubt you have even one. Ravel said dryly. How dare you? Rias tried to shout. After all, she was completely and utterly indignant that she told her Akeno wasn't loyal to her. Curiously, Akeno herself didn't say a single word during the whole affair because, well, it was all true, but she wouldn't admit it to the Phoenix Clan girl. Hell no. Someone who is emotionally dependent on you is not truly loyal to you. Ravel cut her off, stating an absolute and undeniable truth. Haha, that's it, Blondie, put her in her place. Azazel and Amaterasu cheered. It's strange that Surtsk hasn't tried to shout to defend Rias. Ajuka commented, genuinely surprised. He can't. Sirafal commented, pointing to where her old friend was, who had. Why does he have a rabbit in his mouth? Ajuka asked, genuinely much more confused than a moment ago. Because every time he takes one out, a new one hits him in the face. Sirafal replied. She had seen him try to take the rabbits out of his mouth only for a new one to be immediately thrown in his face and get stuck back in his mouth. Grafia nodded in silence, understanding the reference without needing words, the shadow of an almost imperceptible smile crossing her face. The poor Natsume looked from one to the other, her gaze filled with confusion, like a little animal caught in a conversation beyond its comprehension, not daring to interrupt the conversation. I currently have no duties for the next 12 hours of the day. If it's not inconvenient, I can start Natsume's training immediately, Graphia added, with an expectant look that pierced Naruto's gaze, awaiting his response. XXXXXXXXXX. Upon reaching a small meadow on the outskirts of the Gremory mansion, Graphia made Natsume stop in front of her. The fresh air caressed their faces, lifting strands of hair and whispering secrets among the leaves of the trees, carrying with it the sweet scent of wildflowers and the melodious song of birds that filled the air with a natural symphony. With a precise gesture, Graphia conjured a piece of magical chalk that floated in the air, radiating a soft and warm light that danced like a firefly in the breeze. This object allowed her to write in the air as if it were a solid surface, drawing words with luminous strokes that seemed to come to life, dancing and twirling in the breeze like shooting stars. Now, Natsume, I understand that at first these lessons may seem intimidating, but in time you will thank me for making you a worthy queen. Graphia began the lesson, her voice resonating with authority and experience, like the echo of an ancient scroll unraveling its secrets, that of a veteran teacher guiding her disciple. Natsume nodded uneasily, her four tails waving nervously, like white flags waving in a silent storm, while her hazel eyes, large and bright, fixed on the words Graphia wrote in the air, absorbing every detail with a silent veracity. Now, how much do you understand about being a queen of a demonic clan? Graphia asked, with a penetrating gaze that seemed to read the young Kitsun's soul, scrutinizing her deepest thoughts. Swallowing with difficulty, Natsume replied in a trembling voice, and not much, Graphia-sama. She internally reprimanded herself for stuttering, feeling the heat rise to her cheeks, coloring them with a delicate pink that contrasted with the paleness of her skin. Understood, Graphia said in a neutral tone, revealing no emotion, her face an impassive mask of unwavering serenity. A queen is the right hand of a king, his main companion and his closest confidant. The traditional structure of a peerage, which many devils have already forgotten, is that each piece has an important place, especially in combat. Within combat, the piece's function is such: pawns are generally, but not always, quantity over quality, but they can also act as secret trump cards if necessary. They are the most adaptable piece. The rook is the tank of a peerage, it can receive and deliver large amounts of physical and magical damage, although this increased strength means a decrease in speed and agility. Knights, on the other hand, suffer the opposite problem. They have greater speed and agility, but apart from that, their physical capabilities are mediocre. Bishops are the mages of a peerage, their magical abilities increase, while their physical capabilities remain the same or decrease to compensate. She paused to make sure Natsume was listening, and continued, finally, the queen piece, like you and me. We have all the increased attributes of the rook, knight, and bishop. Her voice became deeper, as if she were revealing an ancestral secret that resonated in the depths of time. In exchange for having all the increased abilities, these are increased to a lower level than an individual piece. An example is that if a queen and a rook have the same physical strength before being reincarnated, after they are reincarnated, both will have greater strength, but the rook will be much stronger. Yeah, that didn't matter to Naruto. Odin commented with a snort of amusement. His adopted son's peerage definitely didn't follow the rules Graphia had established under any circumstances. Let's be fair, whatever he taught them is possibly the reason why his rooks are as fast as knights, and why his knights are as strong as rooks. Azazel commented. He didn't know what the hell Naruto had taught his subordinates, but damn it, he would kill for him to train a few of his guys. Cosmo energy? Ajuka asked. Naruto had explained it more or less to a certain point, but he never had the time or opportunity to develop it himself. Wait, he's really that nerdy? Azazel asked with an amused smile. Why did the powerful always have such frivolous personalities? Graphia finished her explanation and looked at Natsume, searching her hazel eyes for any sign of understanding, hoping for a spark of comprehension in the darkness of her ignorance. Natsume, her head filled with new information, nodded enthusiastically, her tails waving vibrantly, like a fan of white feathers celebrating the newly acquired knowledge. Natsume nodded her head, mentally reviewing the words that Graphia had written in the air. She remembered the letters shining with a soft light, like small stars suspended in the breeze, guiding her mind through a labyrinth of new concepts. As Graphia explained the intricacies of the peerage and the functions of each piece, Natsume couldn't help but notice the passion that emanated from her voice, the way her amethyst eyes sparkled with an inner fire, like two embers ignited by the flame of wisdom. A small smile appeared on the young Kitsun's lips, infected by her teacher's enthusiasm, like a silent echo of her fervor. Now, as Naruto-sama's right hand, you will be in charge of his general well-being, but also of ensuring that he is disciplined and does his job. If you're lucky, he'll be the opposite of Surtsuke-sama and will do his job without serious consequences, Graphia said, with a slight touch of irony in her voice, a spark of dry humor that briefly illuminated the seriousness of her face. But if by chance Naruto-sama is the same, I will teach you how to properly deal with his lack of motivation. This is a method that usually works well, and there are others, although I won't teach you some until you are older. I think he has more problems trying to prevent his motivation from getting him into trouble. Ravel commented with a snort of amusement. Keeping Naruto motivated wasn't the problem with Naruto was that he was too energetic when something passionate him. I imagine he would be offended to be compared to his older brother. Ajuka commented, knowing that Naruto disliked being compared to his older brother more than anything, even today. In fact, as far as he knew, he got much angrier than he used to when he was still a little kid. Natsumi nodded shyly and docilely, her four tails waving gently, like white feathers caressing the air. Now, stand up, Graphia ordered, with a tone of voice that resonated with the authority of a royal decree. Natsumi stood up with a slight tremor in her legs, feeling Graphia's penetrating gaze fixed on her, like two daggers of ice that scrutinized her every move. The first thing we will work on is your confidence, Graphia said, with a smile that did not reach her eyes, an expression that hid the steely determination that throbbed within her. And for that, you will need to overcome your fears. Natsumi swallowed, feeling a knot of anxiety tighten her throat like an invisible rope. Graphia's eyes shone with an intense light, like two embers burning in the darkness, casting dancing shadows on her expressionless face. A chill ran down her spine like the touch of a ghost, and her hands, small and fragile, clenched into fists, trying to cling to the courage that was fading. Why do I have the feeling that anything you made her do pales in comparison to anything Naruto made her do? Azazel asked with a raised eyebrow. Because he forced her to be in her underwear in the middle of Siberian winter on her second day as his queen, and they were there for almost 3 months, Graphia said dryly. Honestly, she was still not sure how the hell he thought that was a good idea, or how the hell it actually worked. XXXXXXXXXXX. The next morning, Natsumi, after finishing her intense training with Graphia, entered Naruto's room. Her kimono, worn and stained from life on the street, now also showed the marks of earth and sweat from training, with some patches of grass and dry mud that told the story of her effort. Her hair, normally neat and tidy, was disheveled and tousled, with some strands stuck to her sweaty forehead and others escaping in all directions, like rebellious strands of silk. A slight frown furrowed her brow, darkening her delicate features with an expression of tiredness and frustration. She had accepted to serve a demon, a Gremory, to have a better life, not to look like a wild creature just out of the forest. However, as soon as she looked at her king, who was in a corner of the room with his feet resting on the desk and a notebook in his hands, her anger dissipated like the morning mist, vanishing in the presence of his calm. Naruto, oblivious to her presence, seemed absorbed in his notes, his pen gliding quickly over the paper, leaving a trail of black ink and incomprehensible words that danced like ancient runes. Naruto-sama? Natsumi said with a hesitant stutter, which made her curse under her breath, her voice a whisper barely audible in the stillness of the room. But she had to suppress her frustration when Naruto simply threw his head back to look at her, with eyes that left her completely surprised, paralyzed for an instant. His eyes are the 6 eyes, she thought in amazement, feeling a chill run down her spine, as if the very air had frozen. How the hell are the Gremorists not training him to be the best? Those eyes literally make him an almost omnipotent powerhouse, even I know that. Again with those damn eyes, they're not that special. Venelana spat out, not understanding what the hell everyone saw in those damn eyes. Actually, they are, but since you've already decided that your stepson is absolutely worthless for being a half-blood, there's no point in explaining why those eyes make whoever possesses them a god among men. Yes, that explains why he's achieved the things he has since he got rid of his burdens. Odin commented while rubbing his beard. Certainly, he now understood how Naruto was able to replicate anime techniques and cosmic energy. Certainly his eyes were a great advantage on that path. I thought you'd be back for breakfast, Naruto commented casually, lowering his feet from the desk and sitting properly in his chair, the sound of the wood echoing in the silence. With a fluid gesture, he turned around and adjusted his dark glasses, hiding his powerful eyes from Natsumi's view, as if hiding a dangerous secret. How did it go? He asked with genuine curiosity, his voice sounding softer than usual, a contrast to the intensity she had witnessed in his previous gaze. Quite well, actually, Graphia-san had to return to her duties, Natsumi replied, trying to stand straight and speak professionally, just as Graphia had taught her. However, her tails betrayed her, waving behind her nervously, as if they had a life of their own. Naruto smiled at her slightly, and the light seemed to capture the sparkle in his blue eyes, illuminating his face with an unexpected warmth. He had realized that Graphia wanted to turn Natsumi into a miniature version of herself, with all that formality and rigidity. It was a kind gesture, he supposed, but he didn't think Natsumi would feel comfortable that way. You don't need to be so formal with me, Natsumi, Naruto said, in a soft tone that contrasted with the coldness his eyes could show, like a reassuring whisper in the dark. Graphia needs to be because of her position as my brother's queen, but I don't have such a high position. I may be your king, but you are also my right hand, he added, with a small, reassuring smile that lit up his face, like a ray of sunshine on a cloudy day. Natsumi let out a small cry, a sharp and surprised sound that echoed in the room, breaking the stillness with a trembling echo. An intense blush colored her cheeks, as if an internal fire ignited under her skin, spreading to the tips of her fox ears, betraying her nervousness with a vibrant crimson. Naruto's closeness, his smile, and his kind words had completely disarmed her, leaving her vulnerable to his unexpected warmth. I will try not to be so formal, Naruto-sama, she said in a trembling voice, lowering her gaze shyly, unable to hold the intensity of his stare. But, can I ask you to do the same? Grafia-san said that I am supposed to be your greatest confidant, an eye for an eye? Naruto asked, with an amused smile tugging at his lips, a mischievous glint that lit up his eyes. Seeing Natsume nod, he continued, I can try to do that, Natsume. Would you like to help me? He asked, raising his notebook with an inviting gesture, offering her a glimpse into his secret world. As she approached him, Natsume saw that the page was covered with names written in a messy but energetic calligraphy, strokes that danced on the paper like living creatures. Names of creatures and beings she had only heard in stories and legends, mermaids with melodious voices, dragons with impenetrable scales, forest spirits with bright eyes. A world of possibilities opened before her eyes, a fantastic universe that throbbed beneath the surface of reality. What is this, Naruto-sama? She asked in a trembling voice, as she tried to smooth her hair and tails to look more presentable, a desperate attempt to regain her composure. However, her efforts were in vain. Her kimono was still worn and dirty, and her movements were clumsy and insecure, betraying her discomfort. Since I don't really have anything better to do right now, I thought that, since I was given a reason to start a peerage, I could start studying the species I know to look for potential members, Naruto replied casually, without taking his eyes off his notebook, as if revealing a plan that had been brewing in his mind for a long time. Natsume's eyes widened, as if she had just discovered an incredible secret that would change her perception of the world. See, can I borrow the notebook, Naruto-sama? I would like to investigate the species you were looking at, she asked shyly, holding her breath as she waited for his answer. Naruto looked up and smiled kindly at her, a gesture that instantly reassured her. Sure, Natsume, he said, extending the notebook towards her, offering her a priceless treasure. Be careful, some of those creatures are quite dangerous. Natsume took the notebook with reverence, her fingers brushing the worn pages delicately, as if afraid to break a sacred object. Thank you, Naruto-sama, she said with a sincere smile, feeling a wave of gratitude towards her king, a warm feeling that flooded her chest. You're welcome, Natsume, Naruto replied, returning to his notes, immersing himself once again in his world of fantastic creatures. Oh, and please, try to avoid my sister and Queen Akeno. She's about our age, has long, black hair, and purple eyes. She's a bad influence. Natsume nodded, engraving Akeno's description in her mind, a warning that resonated with a tone of mystery and danger. With a final farewell, she left the room, closing the door gently behind her, a gesture that marked the beginning of her new mission. As she walked down the hallway, with the notebook pressed against her chest, a new determination shone in her eyes, a spark of hope that illuminated her path. I will be the best queen for Naruto-sama, she thought firmly, remembering Grafia's words, a silent oath that sealed her destiny. I will protect him and help him achieve his goals, no matter the cost. Meanwhile, Naruto, oblivious to the intrigues that were weaving around him, continued his research, his mind absorbing information like a sponge, exploring the depths of arcane knowledge. Suddenly, a thought crossed his mind, like a lightning bolt in the darkness, a fleeting reminder of his oversight. I forgot to ask her if she had breakfast yet, he murmured to himself, with a slight shrug, dismissing his forgetfulness with carefree indifference. And thus began his story. Man, I thought it would be more dramatic. Odin commented, expecting something a little more dramatic. What's more dramatic than being exiled by your older brother when you were only defending yourself? Ajuka asked. Okay, that hadn't happened yet in the story, but he doubted it would be long before that day came, since it happened when Naruto was 13 years old and he seriously doubted that the book would show everything that happened in between. I already apologized for that. Surtsk complained once again, only to receive a rabbit in the face. End of chapter. Sorry for not putting so many reactions at the end, but there wasn't much to react to, especially in the last scene.